Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Before I get going with the Sunday chat, I have done some, just haven't got them all on the plants. We might put some of them on the plants today, but I'm using a colour coding, so the cooler, shadier type are going to be in blue. Oncidiums and intergenerics are in yellow. Cattleya types are in red. Dendrobiums are in green. And that's 4 colours used, so everything else is going to have to be in white. I hope it does black writing on white. White writing on black looks good, but I haven't got black labels. But anyway, I am getting going. Every now and again I just have a moment where I think I'll do some labels. Trouble is, I'm getting to the point now where I don't know which ones I've done and which ones I haven't. So I'm going to end up, next session I'll have to come out and look at a group of plants and then go and do the labels for them. You see what? Otherwise I'm going to end up with repeats. Anyway, let's get going. Some disappointing news and some sort of reports and various things, and let's get going. Okay, cheers. I will try and drink some. It's a running gag. You had to be there at the beginning. Right, first of all, the garden party yesterday. Disappointing from my point of view, not the garden party, the story, but some things just have to be, and people's well-being is far more important than attendance at a do. So basically I got some nice food in, bearing in mind Hannah's coming, so I got some of her sort of favourite stuff in. Got some nice wholemeal rolls, I got some king prawns and a paprika spice sauce to go on those, to have one each of those. I've got some nice ham on the bone, cooked ham on the bone with some pickle, so that's 2 nice rolls each. And I've got some little prepared salads, you know, like Greek salad and a sort of pasta, tomato and pesto type salad. These are prepared things in the tub, you tear the top off and tuck in sort of thing. Got some cold drinks, got the cool bag out, got some ice packs out the freezer, got it all prepared, and that was first thing yesterday morning obviously. And then I set off about 8:15 to pick Hannah up at 10 o'clock. I got part way there, the phone went off, text message, sorry Dad, I can't come. I've woken up with a horrendous migraine and I've been sick, and there's no way I can go out in bright light and heat, so sorry, but I just can't come. So I turned around and came home. There was no point in going on to the garden party at that time of day without going to Hannah's, because I'd have been there about an hour and a half, 2 hours early. So I came back and put Hannah's food in the combination of the fridge and the freezer, because I'd also got some stuff for today. For breakfast, which, you know, that'll freeze, it'll come out another time, so nothing got wasted. But nonetheless, I'm then sort of thinking, well, I'll go on my own then. And I started to think about it, and I thought, there's going to be some people who are not going to want to go because of the heat. I mean, some people just can't take that, you know. I said, certainly some older people, they just can't cope with it. They just flag and just can't do anything. I mean, I'm okay, as long as I have my hat on. Some people seem to like my hat. Anyway, so I came home and just wasted a bit of time really, you know. And then I thought, actually I'll go and get the car washed, do something useful with the sort of time that I've gained. So I set off up the road to the car wash, and when I got there they're queuing out in the road. I thought, I'm not sitting in a queue, you know. So I thought, now where's there another one? Actually, if I go up through the forest to where the event is, there's one as you sort of leave the town. So I set off for that and got stuck in a queue of traffic on the road. And basically there's a major 4-way junction with staggered entrances from the sides. They've closed one of them and set up traffic lights. I don't know what they were doing. When I got there, they didn't seem to be doing much at all. This is holiday season. It's a Saturday. Everybody's trying to get to the area I live in for the beaches, you know, and all that goes on in a touristy area. when I finally got through the lights, the queue the other side was 5 miles long, because I measured it. So I was interested to see roughly how long those people were going to probably have to wait. So anyway, half an hour later I managed to get to the garage, pulled in, and I thought, how many people are going to be queuing up for the car wash here? So I paid and went round the corner. I just went straight in, I was the only one. So I give the car a splash and came back out, joined the queue of traffic. But the garage was virtually on the lights, so as I joined the traffic I was off basically, so set off. I still got there half an hour early, and I thought, well, I'm early now, there's not a lot I can do about it. I'll go round the back, see what they're up to, see if Alan needs a hand putting up the gazebos and things like that, but he'd done it all the day before, so he didn't need a hand with anything. But I thought, well, at least I can get in the greenhouse and film before anybody else comes, because his greenhouse is a bit squashed up. How squashed up? You can see at the end of this video. I'm not going to do that as a separate video, it's too short really. So after I've finished waffling and fannying around, I'll switch over to the clips I filmed in Alan's greenhouse. There's also a little bit in the garden, and there's also a short clip of where the event took place in the garden, you know, with all the chairs set out and everything like that, before anybody arrived, so there's nobody there. But yeah, and I'll tag that on the end, and I'll take the soundtrack off, because next to Alan's they'd let 3 little rat dogs out in the garden and they were yapping at nothing. There was nothing there at all, but they barked for about half an hour, and they eventually got called in and we didn't hear any more of them for the rest of the day, so just while I was filming, annoyingly. So anyway, the event itself, I think the last one we had about 30 people turned up, and that's some time ago, because obviously this is pre-pandemic, the previous one. Anyway, about a dozen people turned up, and Lynn didn't turn up. Lynn had some sort of upset tum, and she said, no, I'm not, you know, going to somebody else's house while I'm like this, so Lynn didn't come. And Patricia, she didn't come, you know, the other YouTuber from the Orchid Society. But, you know, there was a good crowd there. What there was, you know, we all had a nice, it was cosy because there were so few people, so it was okay. And you know, we all had our sort of lunch and drinks and things like that, and it went off okay. Everybody took in turns to go and have a look in Alan's greenhouse, and came out sort of looking like this. It makes my few orchids look a bit pathetic, doesn't it? But Alan's been growing a very, very long time, and he's a bit of a collector. And basically, you know, it's a 20-foot long greenhouse and it's full. How he finds room for, you know, he's always volunteering. I mean, we've had a few people pass away. You know, we need somebody to take on some of these orchids till we can sort out, well, yeah, it's all right, I'll have them. You know, he always volunteers. He's one of those sort of guys. So and not all the plants in there are actually his. There are still a few scattered around from those type of things in the past that still haven't been sorted out. Anyway, when I put that clip up, we'll have a little competition. In the meantime, I'll need to try and find the answer, and I might not be able to find the answer because there might not be one. But you can play guess how many orchids there are in this grow space from the clips at the end. Challenge. You'll see from the video, wherever you look, like you can lift up a leaf and behind the leaf there's a tray with 30 orchids on, you know, wherever you look. If you bend down, oh, there's more down here. If you look up, oh, there's more up here. I hate to think how many there's in there, but it makes my 170-ish orchids look quite minuscule, you know. Anyway, see what you think. It wasn't that much in bloom, but it was worth looking around just for the, you know, the scale of it all. He must spend half his life watering. Anyway, so that's that. That was the event yesterday. Pity Hannah wasn't there, because she'd still be here today, obviously. She'd have been down for the weekend, but that can be rearranged. It's not the end of the world. A quick thing, something came up in a comment, so it's got me to thinking. When I put that clip up, we'll have a little competition. In the meantime, I'll need to try and find the answer, and I might not be able to find the answer because there might not be one. But you can play guess how many orchids there are in this grow space from the clips at the end. it is sort of geared up towards people who are thinking about or have recently started a YouTube channel. Now obviously the people watching this are going to be, if they come into that, you know, sort of set of people, then it's probably going to be an orchid channel, isn't it? But not necessarily. I mean, somebody who's interested in orchids could be setting up a woodwork channel. You know, people can have more than one hobby. And therein lies the next little bit. My second hobby, the bonsai thing. I had a look into a comparison for me, but it might be useful for other people, just about the differences between the two channels. Now, firstly, the other one hasn't been going long and this one has, so there's that difference. But just looking at the people involved, the people who watch this, you know, whether it's 1,000 or 50,000, it's still geared up to percentages, isn't it? So out of the people who watch this channel, 90% of those people are in the States. Out of the 10% that's left, about a third are from the UK. You know, so whatever that is, 3%. And then out of the rest is the rest of the world, basically. And if you look at the split, there's quite a few more female viewers than there are male viewers. And then I started thinking about the channels that I know. And if you think about it, when I first started watching the orchid channels, apart from Miss Orchid Girl, who's always been there, the majority of those channels were run by men. You look round now, the majority are run by women. The whole orchid channel thing has changed round over the years. The one thing that hasn't changed on the orchid channel is the bulk of the viewers are over 65. They don't they don't break that down anymore. They got like really young, quite young, heading towards middle age, bit older and old. I'm in the old bit, 65 plus. So that's the orchid channel. I went over and did a bit of work on the bonsai side of the channels, and the difference is quite dramatic. First of all, only 2/3 of the viewers are from the States, and the majority of the other third are from the UK. The number of viewers, okay, I haven't got a huge number on that, you know, on that bonsai channel yet, but I'm heading up towards the magic 1,000, it's coming. But yeah, so, you know, there's a large percentage of UK people watching the bonsai channel. So there's a major difference there. And then when I start looking at all the channels that I'm subscribed to in the bonsai arena, there's only one woman. They're all men. And nearly all, I mean obviously channel IDs, you know, when you look down a row of comments like that, they're not all names, are they? Some of them are, you know, well, some of them are just a string of letters and numbers, it seems. But the majority of the people leaving comments on the bonsai channels are men. On my bonsai channel, I've got a higher percentage of females. And then I thought, well, why is that then? And I thought, it's the people who've come across from the orchid channel, isn't it? And have sort of stayed around for a while. Thank you for that, by the way. Big thank you for that. Yeah, so the main differences between, and that's just two little niche categories. And if you think of all the other niche categories, you know, sewing, allotments, woodworking, all the different things that there are. And it seems that, you know, there's different groups of people and from different parts of the world that concentrate in on these things. So if you're building a YouTube channel, or you're thinking about your own YouTube channel that's up and running, have a think about who's watching. And is your channel more geared up for them? Or could it be better geared up for them? Yeah? Could you do minor changes, or in some cases maybe major changes, to actually accommodate the majority of the people that watch that niche? Now you can go and do some homework if you like, and find different channels in your niche, or whatever, yeah? Have a look. Who's watching? Yeah? Who's leaving comments? why is this channel so much bigger? Has it just been going longer and that's all it is, or is it better? And if it's better, why is it better? Why are more people sticking with that channel than that one? And if you do a little bit, it doesn't take much, you just do a little bit of work and put a little bit of thought in, you can sort of think, well actually, if I just change this little bit, I'd be a bit more like that one, perhaps I'll get a few more viewers, if you wish to do that. I mean, certainly when I first started, I didn't necessarily do it because I wanted more viewers, I did it because I enjoyed it. I like filming, I like doing the fiddling on the computer. I mean, I don't do a huge amount of editing, I must admit. I mean, I can analyse it, because I use video editing software, I can watch a video and analyse it and think how it was produced and probably be quite accurate. And there are some channels that I watch they're more at the professional end, because there's thought has gone into what's going to be said. So there's an element of script and storyline. That takes work, that takes planning, and it takes time. This is somebody's individual time that they're putting in now. We're clocking that up as we go along. Yeah? So they've done that bit of work. And then they've got to film it. And if anything goes wrong, or the words don't quite come out right, they'll retake that and film that bit again. Yeah? And I can tell where those, well, I can see the joins basically. Even though on mine, my camera does, I think it's about 10 or 15 minute chunks, and then it breaks. So when I take the stuff off the camera, I might get 5 or 6 individual units of video, even though it's just one continuous thing. So that goes into the software, and I just join them all together, and the software gets rid of the join basically, so you don't see the join. That's with that software. Yeah, so then I'm sort of thinking, so there's an element of retakes, this bit didn't quite work right, I fluffed me words, or I dropped something, I said, we'll do that bit again. I don't want anything not being right. And then that's all joined together. And then you've got the video editing, that's after the filming, that's the stuff when you get it on your unit, whatever you're using, laptop. And you watch it, and you might think again, when you watch it back, you think, oh, that section's dark. Oh, I forgot to turn the light, I'm going to have to film that bit again. And you get all these things, and then eventually you get the finished unit. And that could be 30 minutes long, but there's been 2 or 3 hours work put into it to get that 30 minutes. Now, I can relatively safely say, because I get away with my style, which I don't intend changing in any, well, let's put it this way, if I make changes you'll have a job to see them, because they'd be gradual anyway. But I come out here with a few ideas. That's my planning. I haven't sat down and done that, they've just occurred, possibly during the day before, or while I was looking at the comments from the previous video or something. And a couple of ideas come up like that. That's my planning, that's done. That's minutes, if that. And sometimes there isn't much at all. So that's that bit done. And then I do the filming. Well, you can't reduce that. A 30-minute video takes 30 minutes to film. So let's say I've used a little bit over 30 minutes. Those clips will upload onto the laptop. I don't need to be there, I just need to drag and drop and walk away. So that's another 10-15 seconds so far. Now I've got all my clips on the computer, I open up my software, click on the folder, select the files, open, and they come into the software. I edit the words on my title, because it's still got the words from the previous one. So I change the title, yeah, and I save that in case anything goes wrong with it, can use the internet or lose the internet or something. And then I drag my clips in, join them all together, pull my ending up, pull my watermark up, and save it, and hit produce, which joins all that lot together for me, and I don't have to be there now, I can go away. And that, for a 30-minute video with 5 clips and no editing. Editing for me is putting pop-ups, like putting names of plants, putting the odd text box up because I called a plant the wrong name and just correcting myself. I don't go and refilm it, I just tell you. And also sometimes I put pop-ups of actual blooms when I'm talking about plants. That's my editing, plus what I've told you about cutting off the bit at the beginning where I'm fannying around getting the camera in the right place. But that's my level of editing. So in that 30-minute video there's probably 5 minutes of faff on the computer. And then to upload it onto YouTube, I just grab hold of the file, YouTube does the rest. All I need to do is, the title's already there because that's what I saved the file as, so I don't have to type it again. And all I have to do is type in my description for YouTube, and that's it. So for my 30-minute video, I probably spent 45 minutes in total, including the 30 minutes filming. Now I know some people, like I said, for a 30-minute video, I can see they've spent 2 or 3 hours. So you have to decide on your channel, which end of that scale are you going to be? Are you going to be sloppy like me, where you get away with murder, quite honestly, but if people didn't like it, they wouldn't stay. That's how I am. That's just me being me, basically. And I'm lucky I sort of get away with that most of the time. You might want to go up the perfection end, where you want your videos to be the best possible video you can ever produce. Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to use a lot more of your time. And as a consequence, you might not post videos as often as you could do if you were lazy like me. So yeah, so you know, if you have a new channel or a budding channel, you can always have a look round at what other people are up to and try and work out why some work and some don't. Now I know some channels that don't work very well because of the, I'll just say the voice. I mean, I've been to lectures. One of the Orchid societies has got a guy that's got knowledge coming out of his head, but he can't present. It's a monotone. And it's as though he just doesn't want to do it. And yet he's so knowledgeable and he's such a nice guy, but his presentations are awful. So it's like if I wasn't feeling so good or something like that, I'd quite happily miss that. You know, just sort of thing. And that's the same selection with the, you know, with the videos, with the channels. There are channels that have got information in, but it's difficult to put up with them to get that information out, if you see what I mean. And then there are other channels where there's not a lot of information, but they're thoroughly enjoyable to watch. You know, they're bordering on fun. Can you have fun with orchids? I don't know. Anyway, so that's a bit about channels and stuff. That's useful to some, but for people who only watch, that's still thought. You know, I mean, you can get lazy as a YouTube watcher and commenter. I mean, there's a lot of people watch and don't leave comments. But in that category, you can get. I got lazy. I mean, I had 260 odd channels that I'd subscribed to. So each day you come in and have a look who's posted what. And you start selecting, and after a while I thought, I'm selecting mostly the same ones each time. So why are all the others there then? And why aren't I selecting those? So even as a watcher, you're doing the same process as an actual channel owner ought to be doing. So, right, so that's all that. What else? Where are we? I'm just trying to think when the Project Orchids come out again. Is that September or October? I can't remember. March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, I think the Project Orchids come out in September and we're heading for halfway through August, aren't we? As is traditional in the UK, we talk about the weather, and that has been not pleasant this year. A lot of people's plants have suffered. A lot of people who've spent a lot of money and put so much time and effort into putting into their gardens that become their pride and joy, and they're having to sit there and watch their plants die. And they're not allowed to do anything about it to any great extent because, you know, we've now declared drought conditions. You're not supposed to use water on a garden. You're supposed to save it for essentials like drinking. As some people would say, washing. Is that actually essential? Really? If there was a difference between having a drink and having a splash in the sink, which would you do? You'd drink, wouldn't you? So is it essential? Yes, so yeah, this is the last day in my area down south. I mean, it's people up north have had rain. They haven't had a heat wave. Well, they've had a bit of one, hardly worth bothering with. But, you know, there's whole areas of the Northern Ireland and across Northern England to Scotland. It's raining now. Well, we haven't had any. Sorry, but, you know, it's now 7 or 8 weeks and we haven't had any. And there still isn't much around. But this is the last day of what in this country, in this area, would be called the extreme heat. Into the low to mid 30s today, here. Not yet. I did some washing just now and I thought I'll go and put that outside and take advantage of this heat. And well, you can't probably see it. And I went outside and I thought, there's no flipping sun, it's all cloudy out there. But that doesn't stop it getting hot. The heat's been trapped. Cloud will make it worse. Yes, so this is the last day where we'll be over 30 degrees. We've still got a hot sticky night to come, so not good for sleeping. And then some cooler air starts coming in tomorrow and more parts of the country are going to start to see some rain. Some of that rain is going to be heavy downpours in the like of thunderstorms and things. And on rock hard bone dry land like this, it's just going to run off. It's not going to soak in, so we could get some floods as a consequence. And then it looks like, where I am, we could get what they're calling significant rain, possibly on Wednesday. So we might see some rain here on Wednesday. But one day of significant rain is not going to do it, I'm afraid. I think I read somewhere, it was to do with growing things in tubs, in pots in your garden, and how much water to put on to make sure the water's gone right through. And in that article, which may or may not be true, some say, 1 inch of water would soak down 9 inches. Well, that's nowhere near the water table, is it? And for us to get 1 inch of water, there would be floods, because that's not all going to soak in. Yeah? 1 inch of water in a day in this country is pretty extreme, so that's not going to happen. So, you know, if it rains all day for a day, it's not going to do the job, you know. And then guess what, towards the end of the month, the heat's coming back again. It's just going on and on. And personally, I've had enough of it now. Yesterday was pleasant company. We all had shade to sit in. I noticed nearly everybody had a hat. My hat then became a hat, not a daft hat. Because everybody else had one. Funny, everybody else's hat was very similar to mine as well. Yeah, so, you know, but we put up with it. People were mopping their brows and fanning themselves. It's not comfortable. It's just not what we're used to. Somebody asked about air conditioning. Well, in the UK, air conditioning hardly exists because we don't need it. I'll rephrase that. We didn't need it, but now maybe we do, longer term. Well, if I had air conditioning, I wouldn't run it because I can't afford the electricity to run it. It goes round in circles, you know. I mean, come the winter, there's going to be people sitting down saying, shall I turn the heating on or shall I have lunch? Because I can't do both. People are going to be sat round on settees with duvets over them because they can't afford to run their heating. It's like being in a third world country. It's not right. Something's just gone wrong. And we have a team of people, I won't use the G word, or the C word, come to think of it. Yeah, we have, those people are supposed to sort this stuff out for us and they're just not doing it. We have a two-system type, I'll say government, in this country. Conservatives and Labour. Labour are supposed to be for the people, and Conservatives try to run the country on business lines and economy and economics and stuff like that. So they do have differences. But the problem we've got at the moment is the Labour lot are saying the government are in chaos. You've got a Prime Minister that can't do anything because he's leaving. You haven't elected a new one yet. Perhaps we can stop and think why we haven't got an active Prime Minister at the moment. because Labour have been belly aching and whining for 6 months to get rid of him, because they want an election, because without him they think they can win. So it's their fault that guy's been kicked out, because of all the whining and digging and muck and everything that's been slung around along with their supportive media. They've managed to get the guy kicked out. And now they're moaning because the guy's not there anymore. Still, that's what opposition is for, to oppose. So if somebody says black, they'll argue it's white. They're that stupid. And it works the other way around. I'm having a go at one. It would be the same if it was the other way around. If it was Labour trying to sort everything out and get a new leader sorted out, the Conservatives would be dragging them down. That's all they seem to do, is argue and fight. And what do we get done? Nothing. So, yes, another rant. But it does wind you up, because it's now starting to really dig in. You've got people that go to work, but what they earn is so bad and so low that they're having to go to a food bank to top up. It's unheard of. It wasn't that bad in the war. At least you had a ration tickets and you could go up the shop and get something, you know. Oh, I don't know. And I don't see an end to it either. Quite honestly, I don't see an end to it. Right, back to orchids. This one, we did have a look at this orchid a while back, but it wasn't properly open. So while it's fresh and new and shiny, we'll have another look at it, because it is an absolute smasher. That's Miltonia Summer Glory. And yeah, it's a, quite honestly, it's a typical Miltonia shape. Petals and sepals very, very similar in colour and size and shape. And it forms a 5-point star. So they're normally quite evenly spaced. That's a Miltonia thing. They're not all like this, but it's a trait. And they often have a contrasting colour on the lip. And a lot of Miltonias do have a purple or pinky gradated lip. And these type of tiger colours are quite frequent on Miltonias on the species front. Now this is a hybrid, but this is not a complex hybrid. I doubt if that goes too far away from the species. It's not a primary cross, I don't think, but you know, it's not like the store-bought Phalaenopsis. If you try and track their history down, you start with a line about that long, you know, and try and work backwards to where once upon a time there were two species. But and you'll often find that, you know, I've always said, if you go back far enough, you'll get back to the two original species. Sometimes you don't. Because the first thing that's happened is a primary cross, two species, has been crossed with another species. So you've got three along the first line, really, haven't you? Well, right, so that's that one. There's nothing else. But what we are coming into, that's the forerunner, that Miltonia Summer Glory. It is becoming Miltonia time. My Miltonia Sunset, which is in there somewhere, I don't know where. It'll be over there with the not doing as well as they should be orchids, but not failing. I've just got an area now where I've taken them away from this really bright light. So you get used to light very easily, your eyes adjust, but the level of light in this place is so much higher. And when you get that sun on the roof, you know, it's high levels. But all three of my big Miltonias, I mean this one is a mass of spikes, 3 buds on there, 1 or 2 on there, another lot coming up here, 2 or 3 there, 2 or 3 there, 2 or 3 there, there and there. So that had a nice lot of new growths, including some previous growths had 2 new ones this time round. And this plant does that frequently. So as a consequence, that could, in theory, get bigger and bigger if it was allowed to. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is if you come around the back of the plant, as you can see, we've got some yellowing leaves. These are old leaves. Is that going to snap off? Yep. And we've got leafless bulbs as a consequence. So the old part of the plant becomes leafless. But quite honestly, for the health of the plant, unless they're all shriveled and starting to look a bit iffy, like going strange colours or things like that, they do support the rest of the plant. They're capable of storing, nutrition, hydration and stuff. But this is its last year. It can't stay in this pot another year because we've already got new growth on the edge and over the edge in this case. So that's its last year in that pot, so it's going to have to come out. When it comes out, there's a decision to make. Do I take the old part of the plant off and repot it right back against there so that hopefully all the new growths are in the pot again and not split it? Yeah, one choice. Or do I split it and start 2 new plants? In which case I might be able to leave a little bit of the old plant on for support. So decision to be made, but that is the Spectabilis hybrid, and I would suspect that Summer Glory's got some of that in it, because that Spectabilis goes into an awful lot. Miltonia hybrids, an awful lot. Vigorous plant for a start, and it clears the leaves. The length of the spikes take the blooms out of the plant, so they show. Yeah. There's some orchids, some of the maxillarias, the blooms open down near the base of the leaves. Well, you've got to go like that to find them. They're half covered up. And then the other one that I bought at the same time, this is doing a similar thing. This is a circle plant. So the old part of the plant is in the middle, there. And it's gone out in many directions. So there's every now and again I'm spotting a few scale, but after my smoke bomb I'm trying to see if any of them are alive. I don't think they are. I think I did do a reasonable job there, or the smoke bomb did. So again, this one grows in a very similar fashion. Now this one is the Morelliana hybrid, so it's not the species, it has something else in there. But again, this is quite a vigorous one. Some of last time's growths have pushed out 2 this time round, and as far as I can see, every new growth has a spike on it. So every time I see a bit of white, I check, is there anything on the move in there, or is that just bodies? But yeah, an average of 2 to 3 blooms per spike, possibly 4 on this one, possibly 4 on that one. But again, all the new growths have got a spike. Yeah. So again, it's although I call it Morelliana, I'll be doing some editing. I'll be putting some pop-ups with the pretty blooms on. And it takes 5 minutes. I don't know what the fuss is all about. Right. So that's my 2 big Miltonias. Let me just have a look up here at some time. What do we got here? With the bit on the front, we're heading up towards 40 minutes, I don't want to go mad. This is the other one. Now this is the species, and this is Regnellii, also one that is used frequently in hybrids. Now I say it, fall off, why don't you? I'm not refilming it just because a leaf fell off, And if I flung me worms at that, I'm not refilming that either. But this one is actually 4 plants, and each plant has a back bulb and a new growth. So it's not a pot full of a plant, it's actually 4. And it was deliberately split like that. Those 2 we've just looked at might get a similar treatment, but those would be a lot more difficult because a lot of the growths have got 2 new ones. So you're looking at 3 bulbs. Yeah? So if you take the old one off, you only got the new growth left. Well, that's too weak, it'd be better not to. So anyway, out of these 4, 2 of them tried to bloom, and I chopped the spikes off. I know people just hate that sort of thing, but I want strength in this. From those 4 pieces, I want 4 good strong new growths, good plump bulbs, backed up by their original bulbs, and then we move on a year. And with any luck, these might produce 1, possibly 2 new growths next time round. Then we'll get a good blooming, because those growths will be backed up by these that were refused a spike, and their originals, which by then will be starting to drop leaves. And it was potted with that in mind. The whole plant is at the back of the pot, leaving all this here for those said new growths, including if some of these decide to push out too. There's room, and therefore the roots will go straight down in the pot. So that's the biggies, that's the big Miltonias. Now in here are more Miltonias, but they're all over the place. Not going to attempt to dig them out. But there are more, like that Summer Glory, that little one. I mean, that's been recovering for a year or so, I would say. It's recovered nicely. It's got a nice big bulb on it, as good as the old one. So, all right, we'll have some flowers then. Hopefully next time round, it will produce at least an equal bulb, or possibly a better one, or two. Who knows? But yeah, there's a couple more lurking around, but as I said, I'm not going to dig, so I'm just trying to work out. I've moved these, they got static, they got in the same place, and I always imagine most of the light comes in from the top here. It doesn't. On a shelf like that, they're getting more light from the side, and can you see the leaning on the spikes? If I turn it about there, there's a leaning, yeah? The spikes are all slightly leaning that way, so they're going the other way now. Hopefully they'll straighten up before they open. And the buds aren't formed enough for that aspect to mess the blooms up, because, you know, and quite honestly, they're upright spikes. It doesn't normally affect them much at all. But if you've got an arching spike, the blooms become set at a certain angle. And if you want your blooms all over the place, facing all different ways and everything, straighten that up and stake it, and you'll regret it. Anyway, so that's the Miltonias. A quick bit, because somebody asked for this. I was supposed to do this as a separate video. I have actually done it before, that's the thing. Oh, I've been away a day, haven't I? What happens in an orchid grow room when you go away for a day? Something opens and you don't know it's done it because it's hiding. We've got another new bloom. And it's a bit special. I'll get that coffee finished eventually. Rumour has it. Now in my fern trays, sorry, I'll have to refilm that now, I've said it wrong. In my moss trays, I'm starting to get ferns growing. And I don't know what they are. They're not ferns I've seen before. They look very much like maidenhair ferns, but they're not. Maidenhair ferns have a black stem. So I don't know what they are. But they can come out and go in a pot. I love ferns. I will get some big ferns to go in the garden eventually, but you know, it all takes time. Right, now this is a bit special. Now what I was going to do was I was going to talk about the difference between Miltonias and Miltoniopsis. But I haven't got many Miltoniopsis to do comparisons. But I will now do that as a separate video because it was specifically asked for by one of the patrons. And the Patreon, it's not a channel, the Patreon site, I mean, I've got some people who regularly contribute there to help the channel along, and thanks a bunch for you people that have stuck with it despite hard times and all that. It's greatly appreciated. But I haven't fulfilled my role as much as I should have done, because there's 3 levels in there, and depending on the level you're supposed to get some goodies that don't appear on this channel. They're special for those people. But again, I have to analyse my workload and compare it with my actual promise, I suppose you could call it. And what's happened now is that the video that I load every week is a version of this Sunday chat that's ad-free. Yeah? I can't stop YouTube putting an ad on it, but I can make it an ad-free video, so it starts out that way. And that gets loaded onto that site, so those people can watch that without any interruptions. And I normally get 4 views. Now, okay, I haven't done much extra work to get that loaded on there, because basically I load it on YouTube, I don't monetize it, so there's no ads, I don't set it up in a playlist or anything like that. I just load it as unlisted, and then all I do is take the link and put it in the Patreon site, and it loads the link. It doesn't load the video, it loads the link. So when you click on it, you watch the video. But it's unlisted. That's the only place you can see that video is there. But there's 3 or 4 people watch it. So if I make a separate video just for that site, I'm fulfilling a commitment, yes, but I'm putting all that in for possibly 3 or 4 people to watch. Whereas if I put it up here, nearly 1,000 people will watch it, you know, and that's got to be more productive. Anyway, a Miltoniopsis species. Delicate this time. We're not looking at blousy, we're looking at delicate. Is that not stunning? It's all delicate, it's subtle. Now these blooms can be at least half as big again. They're not. Now this might be, because I can't remember, because it hasn't bloomed for a long time, nearly lost it. It might be that the blooms carry on growing in size. Some orchids do that and they might get a bit bigger. It might be that the plant's still a bit weak to put up a full-size spike. But this is Miltoniopsis vexillaria, and it's one of the 5 species. There were 6 originally, and one's definitely extinct. And I heard, some say, I read somewhere, that it hasn't been successful in cultivation, so it's lost. But I don't know whether that's true. But there were 6 original Miltoniopsis declared species in the wild. And to all intents and purposes, they always get jumbled up with Miltonias, and they're nothing like each other. First of all, they come from a different part of the world, for a start, and the Miltonias have the normal green type leaves that fade to yellow and everything, whereas the Miltoniopsis have a grey-green coloured leaves, you know, different appearance altogether. And Miltoniopsis have a trait of having a single leaf out the top of the bulb, whereas Miltonias tend to have 2. But yeah, these are cool growers. These are cloud forest growers, the species. There's one that grows a bit warmer. I forget which one it is. I think it might be Miltoniopsis phalaenopsis. Strange name for a plant. You make up your mind already. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. That's just caught out of the corner of my eye. I didn't know that had opened. And all 3 buds opened together, not staggered. That's an unusual trait as well, because they definitely weren't open on Friday, and they've opened during Saturday, and there they are ready for Sunday. This one's not quite open yet. Got a little bit of work to do. I'll give it a helping hand. But, you know, it's not always about big and blousy, is it? Sometimes it's about subtle and delicate. Now, when you look at some of the hybrids, the Miltoniopsis hybrids, like Her Alexander, now have a look at that. You can see where some of those hybrids get some of their patterning, yeah, and their shape. So anyway, nearly missed that. And this has been recovering for some time, and it now seems to be okay because it's produced that bulb which has produced a spike. But if you have a look at the base of that growth, there's 2 new ones. Yeah? Well, that's going to double the size. At the moment there's an old bulb and the bulb with the bloom on. That's all I had left. I had some rot set in. Well, if I get 2 new growths that get to maturity, I've just doubled the size of the plant, haven't I? And if that happens and they root successfully, then that's a recovered, successful plant. Please, would be good. That'd be difficult to get again. So there we go. Ugh, that's that. Right, that'll do for me waffling away. There's more than enough of that. A bit of variety in there, all sorts of things. And we move on now to having a look round Alan's greenhouses, a little bit in his garden, and then the setup for the event with no people in it. It's just a couple of short clips. And we'll play How Many Orchids Do You Think Are in Alan's Greenhouse? It's a single greenhouse, 20-foot greenhouse by whatever, 8 or 10, might even be 12 I suppose, I don't know. But yeah, have a guesstimate how many orchids you think there would be in there. Now I'll just explain how I filmed it. I started halfway down and worked my way down one side and up and down and round and like that, and came back to where I started from, and then did the other half sort of round like that. So that's how I went round it. And he tidied up so that we could get in there, because normally as you walk down the little path you're having to do all this because the plants are hanging over the path. He had to tidy up. So I'll leave you with that, with a bit of music, and thanks for dropping by and watching and all that, and supporting the channel, and just being there. It's just nice to know that people stay and they like the channel, and I'm sure there are many and varied reasons, but we will sort out the project orchids to see if they are September or not. It'll be the same format. I think it's September anyway, but see, now they take quite a lot of work, nowhere near as much as they used to, but they don't get as many views as some of my normal videos, my irregular videos, shall we say. But I'm going to complete the task. I did say I'd do it right through to the end of the season and then compare all the clips. So we will do it, we will finish it off, but we might have to have a rethink for next year. Either not at all, or as with this year, this is quite a different format this year. Well, we might do that. We might try a different format. I don't know, but that's next year. That's a way off then. I might not have any plants left by then, because they might have all frozen to death because I can't afford to turn the heater on. You think I jest? Getting a bit like that, where the thoughts are not good. We will do what we can. If I have to sit with the duvet so that I can have the heater on out here and not worry about the heat in the house, that's probably what's going to happen. Sad, isn't it? A state to get into. In one of the richer countries in the world. And we carry on saying that. Bit of delusion going on there, isn't there? Because if we're one of the richest countries in the world, could we try spending a bit on, some of the people that live here, just for a change? See you next time. No, I can't have two, or this doom and gloom is catching. It can catch on. We want to get rid of it if we can. Try and cheer up a bit. And I'll see you next time with something tomorrow, as yet totally undecided. You know me. See you next time.